Thank you for coming to celebrate a piece of Nigerian cinema tonight. And we're really honored to have the director of the film, Tolu Ajayi, here with us. For me, to just put some context into this film, we have the prestigious MVCAs that will be coming up in a couple of days, and this film has the most nominations. So, for me, as someone who has always followed Tolu Ajayi's works, um, you know, it started from when my first encounter with his work was a short film called The Encounter, and it was really critically acclaimed. And we kept asking Tolu when he's going to make a feature, and for me, I just wanted to let him introduce himself, and then we're going to get into conversations about why he decided to make this as his first feature.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. My name is Tolu Ajayi. I um, I have an extensive background. I've always made things. I worked previously in advertising for 2 decades, and I've kind of circled production, and I've made television series. I've made series like MTV Sugar, quite a lot of short films. Most of them socially engaging stories, and I, when I wanted to make something much more full-bodied, I ran into Tosi. I don't know where she is tonight. Tosi Otudeko, who's the writer, and we had this amazing idea for deconstructing, stories about the corporate machinations, masculinity, and sort of the journey of some of the issues we do have in our society. So we sort of made this movie consciously thinking about it being shown within the context of. I'm so sorry about the lack of subtitles. It being shown within the context of Nigerians who would see it and perhaps see a little bit of themselves.
Yeah, I was going to say that one of the things that I saw in the film is that the whole concept of lust, you could actually just see it in Folarin's personal life, you could see it in his career. And I just wanted to say, how would you, like, I mean, what more can you tell us about, the concept of lust and Folarin's character?
Yeah. So from the context of of our society, there is a sense of impotence, of watching things happen and not really being able to do anything about it, which of course, is contrary to the idea of, you being being macho. So we are playing two people. And I speak again with the context of a Nigerian man. So we're kind of, you can be two people. You can be this super aggressive or stoic, having it together kind of guy, and there's a huge vacuum, or being the other side of that as well. And having been in corporate for a while, it's something I just wanted to explore. I wanted to put on screen, and and see, let people kind of see that, and see those areas. And Folarin's character, who means well, is really a part of the problem. You know.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we'll get later. We'll talk about his character because I have some questions about his character later. Yeah, but I just wanted to look at some of the things that you built in the film. If you're from, I mean, people who are really conversant with Lagos. If you live in Nigeria, Lagos is actually a city that we consider the city of bridges, right? And
Yeah.
the bridge that we kept, I mean, that kept recurring in the film is the Third Mainland Bridge. Like, it's one of those really iconic bridges that we have in Nigeria. Tell me about, like, what the significance of this bridge in your story, because I'm not sure anyone has really romanticized Third Mainland Bridge like the way you have here.
So, yeah, I don't have an obsession with bridges, but my commute for a while was across it. And when we were doing the story, I've always wondered what the guys that were under the bridge did. So there was when Tosin shared the script with me, I shared the concept. It's called Katabasis. It's in the idea of fishermen that deliver people. If you know the fishermen that carry people to the land of the dead. So when we started talking, when we got into the idea of the concept, I started to associate the people who live, a step lower, and the guys that work there. What's their life like? And if you've kept up with Nigerian news, some of the guys that work in these villages, when there's development happening, they sometimes lose themselves, their families, and the land is reclaimed, or sometimes, there's resistance and other things happen and there's huge conflict. So we try to bring all these elements together. And the idea of bridges, if you've been to Lagos, Lagos is a coastal city, so the bridges connect you to all parts of Lagos, and it's linked to the promise of all of us being together as one big community. So the bridges left untended are sort of carcasses of promises. So there were just these ideas we were kind of dealing with, the uncompleted ones as well as the ones that also connect us to each other. And they're two different worlds that sort of come together. The guys that have it, sometimes the guys that don't have it. So there are many ideas of what bridges do mean, because the bridge is talking about links to different communities, and there's an economic disparity between them.
Okay, I mean, still on the bridges, because I was also what I could when I watched the film the first time, what I thought was that the light rail project for me is almost like a metaphor for, like, I mean, Africa's struggle, trying to keep pace with modernity and all of that, because you get to see a lot of all of these unfinished bridges
Yeah,
around here.
yeah.
And so, but for me, coming from Nigeria with you, I know that it is really difficult to have access to some of these places, right? Like, I mean, that particular one that you've used, like, tell us more about, I mean, how you're able to just, like, I mean, secure some of these places, and the whole concept of using the light rail in itself instead of just the other bridges that are there.
Okay, so that light rail project, whenever anything needs to happen, there's usually a lot of men standing on the podiums telling you this is going to happen. We have this obsession with men and microphones that tell you, and that's okay. We're going to take you from here to here. So it's about promise keeping, and there's an infrastructure story. So there are carcasses of projects are unfinished that we also kind of littered the film with. And we used, so there was this project that wasn't finished for a long time, which is the light rail. It was left there, so the like skeletons of the unfinished project sort of became like an eyesore. And we happened to be filming the film, so Tosin very courageously, and we sought permission, and we got permission to shoot those there's this, it's like a dead dinosaur that has its bones all over the place. So we started filming around there, and just when we were about to finish, the government actually, so they actually finished the project. So the good news is they kept that promise. So the project is actually up and running in Lagos. New management, new thinking. So kudos to them on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I was also just going to. I mean, still on the bridges. It's not a question. It's just like just adding to it that I know, based on what your film is about, corporate corruption and all of that, and how you are able to just like have the access to that, because usually they wouldn't actually give you that sort of access based on the
Okay.
story that you're
Okay,
telling.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, because the project is sort of subleased, I think I have to give credit to Bosse. Bosse got a location manager. The people that were building it were Chinese. So I think we had the conversation. It was a Chinese company that was doing it. So the conversation was actually with them, and not necessarily through the government. So they didn't mind us filming around there, and at that time, too, the project had stalled, so it meant nothing to them.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to move on to something which is a bit more deeper. And that is, like, many African societies, we tend to believe in the supernatural, right? And sometimes when you have this whole thing about coma, we actually believe that sometimes when you get into coma, it's almost like you've been taken into another realm, just like what
Yeah.
we've seen with this particular character. So for me, I just wanted to know, how were you able to balance the scientific and the spiritual when you're actually telling this story? Because like the way American audience will take it will be different from the way we're going to take it over there in Africa, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So there is a mix of different ideation. So I think the core thing is that the land doesn't forget. So the ballet represents kind of like the avenging spirit of the land, and sometimes corporate interests kind of trespass against that. And the idea of the ballet. The ballet in Yoruba means the chief or the reigning authority over the land. So he represents the spirits of all the people who had the land taken from them, and he sort of is a recurring conscience to Folarin. So it's Folarin's conscience, and in some subliminal way, Folarin keeps experiencing the idea of the land and the waters calling him, throughout the experience, because the deal was obviously dirty from the very start.
Okay, that's cool. I'm also going to say that do we have? I mean, in the audience, if you have questions as well, I have a couple of questions. But like, if you have questions, we can just break in and maybe take some questions from the audience. Yeah.
Hi, I've been to Africa, Senegal, but one thing I love the film. I love the writing on the film, and you took us on a journey. But when Fulani is in a coma, he's in West Africa, not in Nigeria, because you have the Atlantic Ocean, correct? No, I say when he's in a coma, he's dreaming about being in someplace on the west coast of Africa.
Yes, he represents the land is Iroyin, which is the place where they expected him to have fulfilled his promise. Thank you. Apologies, like if some of this we sort of
Subtitles.
needed subtitles would have probably helped with that, because the ballet was wearing where he was from in the beginning.
Okay, there's someone to hear.
Hi, I'd like to know about the theme of infertility. A lot of the Nigerian movies that I watch, if a woman is not able to bear a child, she's basically cast out. So I know you didn't develop that further, but we did see that there was some problem with infertility in this. Is that like a major thing? Like if you can't have a child, that's the end of you.
Yeah. So in a different context, but in Falari's case, his wife has a bit more power, so there's no one taking her out. She's stronger in the relationship. She's she's like old money Lagos. At best, all she gets is parties and other women saying, "We expect you to have a twin." So she has a social challenge, of that burden. But in the context of the more cosmetic Lagos high flying relationship, she's not going anywhere. So I mean, but as to that situation, in definitely another community, the husband would marry somebody else and still keep the wife, because polygamy is still being done in certain communities.
Okay, before the mic will get to him, I just want to ask you about the cinematography and the sort of like visual contrast that we have between the present and then the other world that we have, because I could see in terms of the visual choices that you have in the
Yeah.
cinematography. Do you want to talk about it as we get the microphone to him?
Yes, and yes, I'll answer that just very quickly. So, my shout out to Casey Obiajulu, did an amazing job. We shot the real world, anamorphic, so it was pretty wide, And when we got to the village, we made the choice to shoot it more 4:3. Essentially, because we sort of knew the world wasn't somewhat real, so it was this idea of picture perfect fishing village and how it would look. So we sort of wanted there to just be a difference between the two worlds. So when he does return back to the wider world, it's quite obvious that there's a transition between the two spaces. We I'm trying to go back into some of the files. We discussed extensively. We had seen works of especially works around. We've seen some Diop actually, definitely. And yes, so there were references to that. There were references. There's some Terrence Malick. There's I'm trying to remember all the references at the moment. I wish I didn't have a mood board, but the Lagos, sometimes when we shoot Lagos, in some of our films, we don't establish it pretty much as a coastal city, and we wanted Lagos to have a really strong identity and a character, and this idea of being surrounded, So I kind of was trying to give water a voice, in a way in which it's calling and condemnatory in the same sort of sense, and it's a very visual aspect. If you're in some parts of Lagos, you can't get away from water, and what does it mean? Especially for people that are there. So again, pardon that's mild obsession, but we're trying to just build these thoughts of these communities, and they're there. But as we expand outward as an urban community, what's happening to them?
Just to build on that question, I actually had a question around some of the cinematographic decisions that were made.
Yes.
Like for one, the movie was masterfully edited, and so to be,
Chuka, do you want to stand up? The editor's right here. That's Chuka Ejo. Stand up, come on, man.
And so, in addition to some of the editing decisions, I'd be curious to know sort of some of the other cinematography kind of decisions, such as like going in and out of focus, the choice not to use subtitles, which I appreciate.
Actually, there were subtitles, but not as much.
I didn't notice it. There were moments where I did
because the
actually
character
notice
sort of
them.
explains certain things, but yeah.
Yeah. So just curious to know sort of like some of the editing and cinematography. I'm struggling with this word now.
Oh yes. So there was clearly choices to repeat certain things. We had to first shorten a much longer film and still keep the kernel of the story together. So one of the things we started doing there were natural transitions. There were transitions we shot for to happen in the film. So we used a lot more montage, and we just tightened up the story because most of the film we didn't want to rely on dialogue, which is atypical. So there was more characters showing you things, and that helped us to be able to shorten scenes into montages, and then the story was actually easier to do because we had a much longer film in the beginning. So that process came to be, but because there were elements we'd already shot, because I one of the things I emphasized was to always to keep, so the symbol of Folarin's hands, I sort of, the idea of his hands were always there, then his point of view, so that we just kind of are with Folarin as he's going through some of his crises, and you could always see him trying to get himself under control. So just essentially tell that story of how fragile he is.
If I may, congratulations.
Thank you.
You worked with a lot of close-ups, especially on Folarin.
Yes.
What were you trying to attain, or
Yeah.
what were you trying to translate to the audience? And then secondly, I just wanted to commend your wardrobe person. I think they did a superb job, actually, with,
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I was very fortunate to have amazing actors. So one of the things I looked for in casting were actors and their eyes. It's there was so much that we needed to do without saying it. So Ozzy and Segilola, are amazing, amazing. I wish they were supposed to be here, but they had, they had other commitments. They were supposed to come. Ozzy is a fantastic, charismatic actor. So a lot of the internal, because to tell the story, you have to see what's happening, within the character, and we had to go up really close. The scene I liked the best that Ozzy really, did amazing on was where he was selling out Kevin. And if you know, there was also another scene where he refused to, he did the scene and what we're saying, don't look at him when you tell him to move money, and that's corporate. They're ashamed of themselves. I'm just sorry. So that those things were, we just magnified, and intensified what the character stories were, and also Segi in the seduction scene, she did amazing. When we saw her eyes, I actually realized that okay, this is a live wire situation. So that's we had to get close to really see that.
Yeah, I was also going to add about Ozzy's character. There's something that I saw. When he's giving the speech at the first speech that he was giving. Yeah, there's a way that in his rendition it felt like one of those African revolutionary figures. And I
Yeah.
saw that you even film it. I mean, low angle, right? Is that like all part of his character build up in terms of that revolutionary thing? But at the end, when he comes for the same thing, he's much more mellow.
Exactly. So he's selling you, like in the beginning, the upsell is strong, and that's what I said about men and microphones. So he's pitching, it's in churches, it's everywhere. So the beginning is selling you, and it's a pitch really. He's not. It's something he just wants to get out of the way and get back to doing other things. By the end, Toast and I discussed starting the film with a promise and ending it with a promise. That's so one is real, one really isn't, and I believe also did a great job, making that happen.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much. It was a fantastic film.
Thank you.
My family is from Badagry, so I really appreciated the.
Oh wow.
Hi. So I appreciated the fishing village. It very much felt like home. I just wanted to ask your thoughts on the current highway project that has it's been happening with
You
the.
guys don't want me to go back.
Sorry. You can choose to have no comment, but yeah, it's very timely, and I'm curious, maybe not your opinions on it, but given this film and given the topics that you cover in your films, do you take that activism kind of outside, especially when there are, when I guess life is imitating art to a certain extent?
I'm not an activist.
Not activist, sorry.
I've been, I said I did a lot of advertising, so and I hope it didn't come too strongly. I've done a lot of messaging often for unimportant things. So I was just observing life in Lagos, and what we tried to do was just to kind of give you a slice of what it's like from an observational point of view. And my observation is filtered through what I think should be right with the world. So, as to that other question, this film says enough. I can't, it's a lot. I don't know how to say it. I had a review that says, "Oh, we're taking on Lagos corruption." It's around us. It's literally there's nothing that we can do, and why not show it on film? Why not let people see what it really is, perhaps in a different way? What's happening? It's happening, and we've seen some of it on film already. I can't say any much more about it. We have to go. We have to be back.
Well, so the thing is that just like what she's saying, when I watched that the fishing village, right? There's this when there was one of those villages that I had got erased, not because of gentrification, but because of course it happened elsewhere, and so they were reclaiming the land.
For a
And so
project.
yeah, so the water had to go somewhere, and it was like wiping other villages. So for me,
Yeah.
that's actually it kind of like reminds me of that. So when people watch the film, yeah, I'm sure there'll be like lots of takes from that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, true story. The village that this was filmed at, since we're talking about that. It was filmed out. It used to be a village. My family, my mom, God rest her soul. We used to go there, and I used to actually meet the fishermen, and because there's a resort just around the corner. So we actually filmed that. It was a location I picked because I knew that village. By the time we went back to film, it sort of had become a smuggler's cove. They weren't even fishing anymore. So we couldn't actually get fish in the village. We had to get fish from somewhere else because the erosion of society had reached there. So hopefully we try to capture it and probably keep it on screen. And I hope you all like seeing what the possibilities once were.
Okay. Yeah, we can take one more question from the audience. Yeah.
Congratulations, wonderful film.
Thank you so much.
I had a question about the arc of the main character. So he's a man who's conflicted. He's, as his colleagues described him, very hardworking and determined, but at the same time, he's confronted with a situation that compromises his morality and his standards. Corruption is not a foreign concept to Americans in terms of corporate greed, but one of the things I was curious about was when we see the scene of the financial regulatory agency, roping people in. Was it a conscious choice to not show us how that investigation affected Folarin? I think we see after he gets out of the coma, he turns a new leaf and he starts to do good for the public. But we don't see, he actually did move the money. So I was curious whether it was an intentional choice not to show us the investigation as it related to him, or whether that wasn't really the point at all. The point was that he had, turned around and fulfilled his promise eventually.
Yeah, thank you for that. Tosi isn't here. Tosi and I had a lot of push and pull about how much the character should be punished. So he was investigated, but Tosi used to work for Accenture, so she kind of had that financial story kind of a bit more unlocked. I personally, the reality of it was the money was moved to an account so that they could show up and look good for, so the money could be moved back. But financially, it was the wrong thing to do. So there was definitely, within the reality of what we've seen in Nigeria, there are negotiations that are often done, and characters do get to come back. And there was a conversation we had. You don't get to go to jail for quite a while, but you will languish for a minute until things are kind of sorted out. There was also an element of his culpability also in the story, because his boss was also there, and because it's sort of like a pyramid, of corruption, starting from his boss all the way down. By the time the files were given and shared, some of the culpability and exactly what happened to also made room, but we couldn't really establish that. It was that wasn't the core story, but I hope that kind of gives some sort of substantiation to the question. So does that help? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to close with one question. And for me, I know we talked about corruption and all of that, right? I just wanted to talk to the American audience about the Owambe culture in Lagos, the party, the food, and all of that, right? Tell me how, because usually when you capture Lagos, that is always a significant part of Lagos society life. Do you want? And I saw that it was really beautiful captured in that scene. Yeah. Do you want to talk to the audience a bit about Owambe so that when they get to Lagos, they'll know what is Owambe?
Okay, yeah, it's something you must do, but you have to be invited. Owambe parties it's translated from Yoruba, are very extravagant. They're extravagant displays of wealth. Everybody wearing the same fabric. So we're all kind of subscribed to being a part of the community, and you sort of get in there, and the food is amazing, often very, very spicy, so be warned. And it's getting together, I mean, the way we filmed it, we sort of did kind of satirize it a little bit, but it's often it's a beautiful engagement, really. The music is loud, you're shouting at the top of your voice. And for Folarin's character, he was dissociated from the entire thing. But the reality, you would be trying to have a good time. I must warn you, at some point in time, you'll be called to spend money. There are money changers, and you would have to, throw money in the air and make it rain. But with fully clothed, and very, women that, that puppy people's wives, so you can't expect anything. But it's a part of the process of celebration. So in this case, Folarin's friend, his dad died. Something we didn't really establish, but you have to support your friend in this way, and you have to go there, with money, and you have to celebrate with him. And that means subscribing to the fabrics, and you join everyone with your own design of the same fabrics, and everybody sort of looks like one community. And there's food, there's going to be several trays or 7 areas. You get to eat what you want to eat. Then you dance and you celebrate with the family. It's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous to look at, but sometimes can be extravagant displays of wealth and money. But it's two sides. Enjoy it, please. By all means, enjoy it without any guilt. When you get to Lagos, someone invites you for Anuwambe, go for it. It's a great experience.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the co-founder, the founder of the African Film Festival, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, good night.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.